This boy was run over by Truck Sama. At that moment, a goddess appeared, saying he would be sent to a world of swords and magic. But what he didn't expect was that his power would let him defeat huge monsters with just a single punch. Literally, even at 5 years old, he could take down any monster. But before reaching this point, the scene showed the floor of a bedroom. A boy sat surrounded by piles of manhwas that had been part of his life since childhood. He stared intently at one of the open stories before him. With every read, he always came to the same conclusion. The protagonist seemed way too pathetic. He admired those with hidden strength, disguised under ordinary appearances but revealed at the right moment. Since he was little, he dreamed of becoming one of these mysteriously powerful characters. Over the years, he developed the ability to help others without being noticed. An old woman struggled to push a heavy cart. Suddenly, the weight vanished, making the cart easy to move. She wondered why the effort was gone. Hidden behind a wall, he watched the scene with satisfaction. He carefully moved away, avoiding being discovered. He decided he had helped enough for one day. He left, planning who he would help the next day, maintaining a 10-year routine. Satisfied that he hadn't been seen, he was hit by an 8-ton truck. He woke up in an unknown place. He stood up, confused, trying to understand where he was, certain he had been in an accident. A female voice revealed that this was a world of swords and magic. Before him, a winged woman appeared, floating, saying she had been waiting for him, the pure soul. She introduced herself as Hersia, the goddess of that world, and announced she would revive him. He asked if she already knew who he was. Hersia confirmed, explaining that he was one of the rare people who helped without seeking recognition. Many gods, she said, had been surprised by his actions. He simply listened to the goddess's words. He realized that no matter how hard he tried to go unnoticed, he hadn't fooled the gods. Hersia watched him in silence for a few moments. She turned and called him amusing, just as she had expected. She announced that she would grant him a blessing to become whatever he wished. He could be a hero, a demon king, a dragon, or even a powerful ruler. Then she asked what he wanted to become. He replied that he wanted to be an HSC, leaving the goddess confused by the acronym. He shouted that he wanted to become a character with hidden strength. He explained that he always felt something was missing from his good deeds. He remembered fanning people in secret to cool them down, and how he cleaned the streets without anyone noticing. He stated that this wasn't being a true HSC, as his actions were too small. A character with hidden strength lives unnoticed, but reveals immense power when necessary, leaving everyone around impressed by their strength. The goddess finally understood that he wanted to possess overwhelming power, but hidden and ignored. Declaring his destiny, Hersia announced he would be reborn as a commoner in this new world. His strength would surpass that of any hero, demon king, or dragon. However, she warned that the moment his power was revealed, his heart would collapse. He froze upon hearing the condition and asked why that would happen. Ignoring his protests, the goddess wished him peace on his solitary path. 2 years pass, and he concludes that the goddess is terrible at listening to requests. A pack of wolves appears before him, but he assures himself that everything is under control. He faces the giant wolf and declares himself the strongest in the area. In the blink of an eye, all the wolves are down on the ground. He observes the result and comments on how invigorating this strength is. The pack leader gets up and he wonders if there weren't only 5 of them. The wolf then flees at high speed. He watches the escape, impressed by its quickness. As he watches, he realizes his heart isn't affected if only monsters discover his strength. But the wolf is hit by an attack and thrown to the ground. He reaches the animal and asks it to wait. He soon starts running to stop all the remaining ones. After the hunt, he looks around and notices there are no more monsters or people nearby. Yurian, a 9-year-old reincarnate, decides to return to the village. As he approaches, he hears someone calling his name. A girl confronts him, asking where he's been without telling anyone, and he replies that he had a stomachache. She scolds him, saying he should have said something and not gone out alone since he's weak. She reminds him of the nearby wolf packs, and he just apologizes. She turns to the other children and comments that there were few wolves, which made farm work difficult. One of the boys says it's all thanks to the priest's prayers, which made farming easier. He then wishes there were no more wolf packs. A man grabs him by the head, treating him with contempt. He throws him to the ground, yelling for the orphans not to wander off alone. The girl runs to him, calling his name. The man insults him for being short and weak, even after taking him in. His friend approaches and asks if he's okay. Lying on the ground, Yurian apologizes, relieved he wasn't discovered. The director orders everyone to grab their brooms and get out, never imagining that he had eliminated the monsters. He threatens that whoever doesn't memorize the song will be left for the wolves, making Yurian think that this is a true HSC. The children sing that they're happy, even though they're orphans. They continue to sweep, smiling because the director takes care of them. While they sweep, Yurian and the girls sing that the villagers give them food. The adults watch the children and comment on how much they want to repay their efforts. They praise the director for being kind and for taking in homeless orphans. A woman asks her husband to get a chicken for the children, making them excited. Later, a hearty meal with chicken and drinks is served at the table. The director indulges, eating 2 chicken legs. In another corner, only potatoes fill a plate. Yurian observes the food before him. The children sit on the floor, and he wonders why there are only potatoes. A girl asks why they didn't get the chicken the lady had donated. An older boy tells her to eat quietly, saying it's better than starving outside. Yurian shoots an irritated glare toward the director. The red-haired girl gets everyone's attention and announces the day's special. The children gather around, surprised to see she brought eggs. She explains she took them secretly from the lady and suggests they eat them quickly or mix them with the potatoes. Excitement fills the group, and one of them declares they'll eat their egg immediately. Yurian stares at the food, his mouth watering. The girl offers him her own egg, surprising him with the gesture. She insists, saying he's too skinny and that the director will abandon him if he stays that way. Even so, he refuses and tells her to eat hers. She gets closer and tries to force him to accept it, claiming the egg will spoil. The loud sound of her stomach breaks the moment and she grabs his arm. Surprised, she stares at him, not knowing what to say. He just laughs and insists she eat. Yurian smiles, claiming he isn't hungry as he recalls when he first arrived in this world. He remembers how he was treated as a despised orphan. In his memories, his body is thrown hard onto the ground. A merchant tells him to leave, saying he's scaring away customers. The man seriously threatens him if he shows up again, as an orphan's life was very difficult. No one defended him and hostility was part of every day. Even despised, he remembers the moment he lay on the ground. Then, a girl spotted him and realized he was also alone. She introduced herself as Ella and invited him to follow her. She explained that even though the director was cruel, at least there was food and shelter there. Yurian listened intently to every word. Her stomach rumbled again. Holding his hand, she took him to the director and asked him to take him in. The man observed him with suspicion. Ella assured him that being a boy, he would be a great helper. In that instant, he realized how kind she was. Back in the present, he hands the egg to his friend. He places a piece in her mouth and suggests they go to the Magic Academy. He claims that there, she can study and eat as much as she wants. The other children get excited and shout that they want to go too. Ella hugs everyone and decides they will go together. The group celebrates excitedly, dreaming of all the delicious food they'll have. Yurian comments that instead of hard work, everyone will be able to study. He proposes they survive there as best they can until the day they leave. Suddenly, the director calls the children outside, saying he has great news. He reveals that Ella has been adopted and asks everyone to congratulate her. Yurian stands motionless, not knowing what to say. Ella apologizes for not being able to stay with them until the end. The children say they're happy, but also envious of her. The director then announces more good news and calls for Yurian. He congratulates him, saying he will be the sacrifice for the wolf god. Ella interrupts him, shouting that this wasn't part of the deal, as he had promised to take care of Yurian if she were adopted. The man turns to the boy and asks if he knows why the wolf packs have been missing. Yurian says he does. But the director says what he thinks is wrong. He explains that the wolves don't show up because they receive regular offerings to the wolf god. He states that Yurian is short and weak, incapable of becoming a good worker. He then declares that his sacrifice will save the village and everyone should congratulate him. Ella screams the director's name. She runs to him and offers herself as the sacrifice, begging him to spare Yurian. A fist flies towards her. The man stops the blow at the last second, saying the merchandise can't be damaged. Since that day, Ella never repeated those words again. The director announces that not only Yurian, but the other children will also be sacrificed. After that, he orders everyone except Yurian to grab their brooms and leave. Alone, the boy wonders what he should do. He thinks about secretly dealing with the wolf god and then leaving on a hidden journey. A voice suddenly calls him, and he turns around. He recognizes the figure at the door. Ella appears calling for him. Yurian asks what happened, but she just questions the flower crown in his hair. She wants to know what he thought of her new haircut, done to look just like his. He cuts her off, saying there's no time for that and they need to change clothes quickly. She gets ready to change, stating that since he's thin, her clothes will fit him well. Confused, he asks the reason for the swap and what she means by it. Ella reveals, without hesitation, that she will be the sacrifice in his place. Yurian asks if she truly understands what that means. With a calm smile, she confirms she understands, as her younger brother was also sacrificed. He stares at her, trying to process the painful revelation. Ella explains that when she met him, she thought her brother had come back to life. Because they looked so much alike, she always wanted to take extra care of him. Yurian remains silent, listening to every word. She then begs him to run as far away as possible, as she couldn't bear to see her brother leave again. The idea of running away alone leaves him motionless. He suggests they escape together and asks why she insists so much on being the sacrifice. Ella replies that they would be caught easily since the adults are very fast. She claims to have a plan and explains that the director will become violent as soon as he sees her hair. She says that when he loses control, he forgets about time, giving Yurian a chance to escape. She touches the flower crown on his head. Then she places it on herself and asks him to live in her place. Yurian understands that the adoption place isn't safe and that she'd rather save him. He clenches his fist, realizing that even with his overwhelming strength, he can do nothing. Suddenly, the director enters the room holding a knife. He stares at Ella and asks what happened to her hair. The blade gleams steadily between his fingers. They both watch him and Ella tries to explain. The man grabs her by the head, calling her valuable merchandise. He complains that her value will decrease this way while Yurian watches, paralyzed. He screams her name and unleashes the power contained within him. An intense glow fills his eyes, reflecting the energy around him. He brings a hand to his chest, feeling his heart react to the release of his strength. Yurian feels his heart pound violently, recalling the curse cast by the goddess. Her words echo in his mind, warning that the moment his power was revealed, his heart would collapse. Meanwhile, the director held Ella tightly. His eyes fixate on the band of flowers in her hair. With a twisted smile, he asks if she wants to meet the same end as her younger brother. Then, with cruelty, he decides to reveal a secret. He says he is the wolf god himself, and he admits he was the one who caused her younger brother's end. Coldly, he explains that after it happened, he profited from it. The man declares that it's an honor for orphans to bring some benefit to the village, even if tragically. He mocks the boy, saying he was kind to the end, believing it was good to serve as a sacrifice. He laughs while holding Ella, who goes limp in his arms, and he notes with satisfaction that she's no longer moving. Yurian just watches the scene in silence. The director turns to him, brandishing the knife, and announces without remorse that his friend is gone. He reminds him it was Ella, the one who always worried about him. He promises he'll send him to her side soon. At that moment, Yurian remembers when he met her. The conversations, the laughter, and the way she always protected him. How she sacrificed herself for him. Then he asks himself why he was still hesitating. The man stares at him, confused by the sudden change. The boy turns his back, lost in memories of the goddess. She had asked why he still wanted to be an HSC. She questioned if it would be simpler to be a hero or a demon king, and if deep down he just wanted to be noticed. Yurian replied that heroes and demon kings use their powers for humans or demons. The goddess listened in silence, and he declared that he didn't like that idea. In the present, the boy finally decides. He wants to use his strength to protect those he loves. With one motion, he launches the attack. The blow hits the director squarely. The energy pierces through the building and projects toward the sky. Ella's body is thrown by the impact. Yurian runs and catches her in his arms. He calls out to her in desperation. He apologizes for being too late as she coughs. His eyes widen as he sees the gravity of the situation. He cries out her name once more, and she responds with a faint murmur. Yurian calls Ella's name again. Then, he channels energy into his hands and activates a healing ability. Her wound slowly begins to close. A sigh of relief escapes him when he realizes it wasn't too late. But as he holds her, the memory of the curse returns to his mind. His gaze gets lost in the destroyed horizon. With a firm voice, he declares that he has no regrets. After the explosion of power, he finds it strange that he's still alive. He looks down and sees the director lying on the floor, and suddenly he understands why. If he eliminates his enemies before they realize his strength, the curse won't affect him. In that instant, a formidable protagonist is born, a wielder of hidden strength. Thanks to the goddess Hershia, Yurian awakens in a new world. 4 years have passed since he saved Ella from that director. In the middle of the forest, he finds a colossal monster before him. He faces the creature ahead, motionless and alert. The monster watches him back, measuring his every move. In a flash, he realizes he forgot to drink his milk this morning. He complains out loud that he's barely grown in the last 4 years. He wonders what the average height for a 13-year-old would be. The creature charges and tries to hit him with a devastating blow. In an instant, the monster is defeated and falls to the ground. Yurian turns and watches the motionless creature among the trees. He observes the defeated creature resting on the leaf-covered ground. He wonders if eating deer antlers would help him grow. In front of a large building, a voice calls for Ella and Yurian. It informs them that they are both old enough to take the magic school's entrance exam. The nun who took them in, Sister Arlen, asks if they prepared well for the test. The other children wish them good luck, and Ella says that thanks to her, they're ready. The sister comments that there must be a reason the Lord took the director and spared them both. She wishes them a divine blessing, and they thank her, promising they'll pass no matter what. The magic school was the dream born in that old orphanage. For Yurian, however, there was another reason he longed for it. The last 4 years had been boring, spent only hunting monsters in secret. Now he can't wait to be openly despised by people. He believes that a fantasy world exists for a protagonist underestimated by everyone. That's why he's genuinely excited for what awaits him. Finally, they arrive at the Royal School of Magic, an institution founded by the royal family to train talents capable of protecting the people from monsters. On the day of the exam, a noble named Chris admires the imposing main gate. He looks around, sizing up the other candidates. He notices most of them are wearing blue brooches, a symbol of nobility, just like his own. Suddenly, his eyes widen as he spots a specific candidate. He notices the red brooch pinned to her clothes and wonders if she could be the princess of the royal family. With a smile, he comments that this exam isn't for just anyone. His gaze then turns in another direction, and he questions what exactly he is seeing. Chris spots Yurian and Ella approaching, noticing that neither of them is wearing a brooch. Yurian starts to laugh at the scene unfolding before them. Chris approaches and asks how such simple creatures dare to dream of entering the magic school. Other nobles join in the taunting, and one of them questions if the two even know how to read. Another suggests they should try just to be grateful for the opportunity. Excitement takes over Yurian, as this is exactly the kind of situation he hoped to experience. Irritated, Ella retorts to the nobles, trying to hold back her anger. She soon turns to leave, but Yurian's voice calls her back. Ella stops and advises him not to listen to what they're saying. She explains they value status more than people, while Chris watches watches with a satisfied smile. Yurian runs hurriedly to catch up with her, asking her to wait. At that moment, a voice announces the start of the school's 29th entrance exam. Headmaster Mages explains that the students' duty is to protect the people with swords and magic. He informs them that the exam will test their fundamental skills with the blade and their magical powers. Other students whisper about the presence of a commoner, doubting his ability to fight. A blindfolded man introduces himself as Ga Ryunbi, the instructor for the swordsmanship test. He instructs the candidates to pick up the training swords in front of them. He demonstrates the exercise by cutting the target behind him with a single sheet of paper. The candidates react with astonishment at the precision and strength shown from a distance. Ga Ryunbi checks the list of names and calls the first candidate Tian. A white-haired girl answers the call and approaches. The instructor positions her and tells her to start when she feels ready. Tian asks if she'll be disqualified if she can't cut the target in one go. Ga Ryunbi replies that she won't, as they have no expectations for the candidate's performance. He concludes by saying that since they are just children, they should simply do what they can. Tian strikes the training dummy. The instructor comments that she couldn't even cut it halfway and calls the next name. Chris steps forward and cuts the target in half. Soon after, Rachel also splits the training dummy in two. Ga Ryunbi checks the list and calls for Ella. She responds and positions herself next to Yurian. The boy encourages her, saying the requirement is to cut half, and that she can easily do it. Ella thanks him for the encouragement with a brief smile. She takes her position before the target, and the instructor signals for her to begin. The nobles mock her, saying it's humiliating to share the test with commoners. Ella takes a deep breath and focuses all her strength into the blow. She recalls the moment 4 years ago when she failed to protect Yurian. Her gaze locks onto the target in front of her. With a single blow, she slices off the entire upper part of the training dummy. Instructor Ga Ryunbi carefully observes the result of Ella's cut. Yurian watches her performance with a subtle smile. The candidates react in surprise at the impact of the blow. The crowd is stunned, wondering how a commoner managed to be the first to cut the target completely. Ella firmly declares that now she will be the one to protect Yurian, stating that he's still weak. Ga Ryunbi remains silent for a few seconds, analyzing what happened. A magic wand had been placed in the center of the target. Even with all their strength, no other candidate would have been able to get through it. To cut the target, one had to strengthen the weapon with magic. The girl did it unconsciously, something difficult even for an adult. The instructor recognizes her talent and calls the next name on the list Yurian. A training sword is stuck in the ground before him. Yurian grabs it and prepares to start the test. Ga Ryunbi authorizes him to begin when he's ready. As he swings the blade, he barely manages to scratch the target's surface. The instructor and the candidates observe the result in silence. Soon laughter echoes among the nobles, saying that a weak commoner is still a commoner. Yurian just smiles, certain that the next test is about to begin. A new target is placed in the center of the room for the magic exam. Instructor Ji explains they will use a magical tool to hit it. One of the nobles admits he doesn't know how to cast magic, and she calmly reassures him. She demonstrates how the tool creates water even without the user's control. Then she announces that the first candidate will be Chris. Chris raises the wand and fires a jet of water toward the target. The attack hits the center precisely, and the instructor praises his excellent performance. His friends congratulate him enthusiastically. Ji asks him to return to his place and calls the next one Yurian. He responds promptly, while Ella encourages him with confidence. Approaching, he extends his hand to receive the magic wand. He takes the object handed to him naturally. The instant he holds it, the wand shatters between his fingers. Chris scolds him, saying a commoner shouldn't even stand before a noble. Yurian stares at him in silence, showing no reaction. Ella shouts his name, and the instructor warns that fights between candidates will not be tolerated. He reassures her, saying it's okay as he picks up one of the pieces. He holds the fragment with a confident smile. He thanks Chris, stating that now all eyes are on him. He prepares to take the test with the broken wand. He plans to fail on purpose, aiming for the perfect role of a character with hidden strength. A small amount of energy gathers at the tip of the fragment, but as he tries to cast the spell, immense power explodes in his direction. Yurian is stunned by the unexpected force of his own attack. Ella and Instructor Ji look at the scene, and all the other candidates watch the result. Yurian is speechless at what just happened. He looks at the cracked wand and realizes he's in big trouble. The candidates react, confused by the unexpected test result. Instructor Ji and Ella stare at Yurian, trying to understand what happened. Chris and his friends mutter in disbelief at what they just saw. Yurian wonders if the magical tool broke because of his mana's strength. He shouts that it's the tool's fault, claiming it must be defective. Chris refuses to accept it, insisting a commoner could never damage something like that. Some nobles comment that the item was already worn out and just happened to break on his turn. Bowing, Yurian thanks Chris, relieved by the convenient excuse. He looks at the broken wand and complains that it's too weak for his power. Then, he turns to the target, determined to keep up his act and not expose himself. Headmaster Mages announces the final test, facing a magical bear in the forest in teams of 3. He explains that great skills are worthless if you can't face monsters. Ella turns to Yurian, excited about the final test. She reminds him they're one step away from their dream and need to give it their all to pass. Yurian agrees enthusiastically as a voice announces the team assignments. The same voice informs them that candidates with the same mark must gather to form their groups. Ella notices the symbol appearing on her chest. A candidate approaches, pointing to the identical brooch pinned to his clothes. He and his partner call for Ella to join them and head to the forest. Nearby nobles react, outraged at the luck of a commoner joining the princess's team. Yurian smiles, seeing Ella's group formed. Ella says goodbye, promising to do her best. He waves back, wishing her luck. He soon realizes he's still standing with other candidates, but no mark has appeared. He starts to wonder if he's been left without a team until two classmates approach. The pair joins him, completing the unassigned team. One of them approaches excitedly and confirms if he's speaking to Yurian. He introduces himself as Rishal and says he watched him during the test, asking that they get along. The girl beside him introduces herself as Tian. Yurian agrees, relieved to finally have a team. Two nobles watch the group form and exchange malicious smirks. They comment that a team with a commoner and Rishal is the worst possible combination. They mock him for this being his fourth time taking the entrance exam. Then, they turn to Tian and call her an abandoned noble. They laugh at the misfit team they've formed. Yurian glares at them, not understanding the reason for their taunts. His teammates turn out to be a repeat examinee and an abandoned noble. The group of nobles continues to laugh at their situation. Yurian just smiles and asks if they can't just pass the test. The two stare at him, surprised by his calm demeanor. Rishal breaks into a smile. He approaches and says Yurian is exactly as he imagined, claiming he wasn't wrong about him. He admires the confidence the young man shows in front of the nobles, something he wishes he had. He encourages him to pass the test no matter what, leaving him speechless. Teen, however, questions if they can really pass. Yurian admits he didn't do well on the magic and swordsmanship tests. He remembers his disastrous performance in both. Suddenly, he realizes something. He failed the swordsmanship test, and he also failed the magic test. He starts to wonder how he's still in the running after two failures. He recalls Ella's words of encouragement. Panic sets in as he thinks he won't be able to graduate alongside her. Rishal reassures him, guaranteeing there's still a chance. He explains that since he's tried 4 times, he knows it's possible to fail the first 2 tests. He reveals that the monster exam is worth more points, and that if they join forces, they can all pass. Yurian cheers up, relieved that there's still hope of passing with Ella. In the forest, reality proves to be much harder. The entire team runs from a monster as Rishal begs Tian to do something, since she's a noble. Amid the chase, a flash of light cuts through the trees. The group stops and Rishal comments that the test is as intense as he imagined. Yurian understands he needs to stop the magical bear to be admitted to the academy. He realizes, however, that he can't do it with these 2 companions. He asks himself what he should do, certain he could face 100 of them alone. Rishal states that at this rate, they'll all fail. Teen declares this is her last chance and she absolutely cannot fail. She suggests they focus only on getting the monster's molar. Rishal agrees, explaining that since they're too weak for a direct fight, they must focus on retrieving the molar. In that moment, he has a brilliant idea. Yurian asks if that's even possible, but Rishal assures him he knows a way. He notes that the magical bear always keeps its molars exposed. He claims that if they follow his instructions, they can get the molar without defeating the creature. He feels lucky, as bears are the easiest monsters in all the hunting tests. He hands something to Tian and tells her to spread it on her body. Tian holds the object and asks what it is. Rishal reveals it's a hunting essence. Explaining the plan is to enrage the monster with the scent and then damage its molars. Tian is left speechless by the explanation. She tries to argue that it sounds too risky. Rishal reassures her, saying it'll work anyway as he breaks the object. He adds that the bear monster ignores everything when it's eating, which only worries Tian more. He prepares to act but is suddenly interrupted. Yurian grabs the young man's arm tightly. He questions if he's really sending Tian into such great danger. Rishal turns to face him. He asks if Yurian doesn't want to go to the academy with his sister. He pulls his arm away and states that sometimes you have to take big risks. He challenges him to come up with a better way to stop the monster. He yells that they'll never succeed because they're from the lower class. He explains that unlike nobles, they weren't born with mana, so they must stick together. He concludes it's a good deal if the 2 of them pass, even if it means putting a noble at risk. He states that since she's an abandoned noble, they can use her as bait without any worries. Tian then remembers someone saying she had failed the test again. The person compared her to her excellent older brother Ricky, doubting they were even related. They asked if Tian was the shame of the Count's family. Yurian interrupts, saying it doesn't matter if she was abandoned or ignored. He declares that there will be a time for everyone to shine. He shouts for them not to carelessly decide someone else's worth. Rishal reacts to his words with irritation. He throws the hunting essence on Yurian and Tian. He yells that Yurian should face the monster with her. The bear spots the 2 of them covered in the essence. The creature charges toward them. Tian stares at the approaching monster. Yurian turns to face the creature and cracks a slight smile. Tian lets out a scream. Her gaze shifts to the side. Yurian watches the scene. Tian decides she has to defeat the monster on her own. The creature lunges at them, its mouth wide open. She prepares for combat. She faces the monster before her. A woman's voice claims she's a disgrace to the family. Tian grinds her teeth. Yurian conjures a shield to block the creature's attack. She yells that she's a noble too. She casts a sword spell at the monster. The blow hits the creature head on. Tian cracks a smile, but the monster remains unharmed. She realizes she didn't even leave a scratch. Yurian remarks that the monster is tough, as Tian begs him to get her out of there. He looks at her confused. He asks if the air is getting chilly and warns her the landing might hurt a bit. He explains that he only knows how to launch her into the air since he hasn't learned how to land something safely yet. With a smile, he says it's still better than dying. Then he launches her upwards. He declares that even if she's been discarded or ignored, her time to shine will come. As she flies, Tian thanks him for giving her courage. The monster attacks, and she hopes Yurian managed to get far away. The blow comes fast. Tian is thrown a great distance. She hits the ground. Yurian holds her in his arms and states that her time to shine has already passed. He tells the monster that the guy with glasses ran off to avoid the mess. He concludes that thanks to that, he was able to save this child. He turns to the monster and says, first, he attacks the creature, declaring he's going to collect the items. The strike hits the magic bear squarely. Yurian wonders if he should set up a prank for when the guy with glasses returns, asking where he went. Hidden, Rishal watches the scene. In a flashback, a student questions another group about what they're doing. The group of commoners glares at the nobles. Chris, accompanied by the princess and Ella, states that swords and staves should only be raised against monsters. A commoner calls out to a girl in the group, offering to help her pass the exam. Chris asks how they would do that since only the headmaster has the power to pass or fail a student. The young man reveals they plan to make the nobles fail so they can pass in their place, but he's scolded for revealing the plan. Chris realizes the lower class has united, and the student shouts that it's the nobles' fault for wanting everyone to fail together. He repeats the invitation to the girl and taunts the group, asking if they really think they can beat him with her on their side. The commoners' leader replies that they won't be the ones to defeat him, while his companion warns him not to reveal anything else. Ignoring the warning, he shouts that the monsters will do it, as they're using the bear to eliminate the nobles. Chris states that he understands the situation. He comments that he'd noticed the increase in lower-class participants and concludes this must be the reason. The princess deduces they knew the bear is enraged by the scent. As a member of the royal family, she laments the situation. She declares it's shameful for future protectors of the citizens to use monsters for something like this. She calls for Ricky and orders him to capture everyone alive. She affirms that the royal family will investigate who manipulated the test and exploited the monster's traits to endanger their peers. Ricky advances, sword in hand. He prepares to attack. He unleashes a strike against the commoner students. The blow hits the young men. Ricky stares them down. One of the students tries to speak. Then, he yells for everyone to spray it. The liquid is launched toward Ricky. The liquid stops midair, floating around him. A commoner asks what's happening. He realizes the blood dries before reaching its target. The princess extends her hand and orders them all to surrender. She declares that their plan has failed. Ella watches the scene and states there's no need for her to act. The commoner's leader stares at the outcome. He shouts that this is their only chance and there won't be another. His companion warns him that if they get caught, all will be lost. Even so, he draws his sword and orders everyone not to give up. The other students prepare to fight. The princess is hit and wonders how far they will go. 4 bear monsters emerge from the forest. Ella turns to the creatures. She notes that there are now 4 monsters. She wonders if kids like them stand any chance against those beasts. A commoner shouts that they won't be caught easily, but Ricky just whispers the word wind. He uses his magic to raise a barrier between the students and the monsters. The lower class boys look up. Ella warns them not to get hurt just because their plan failed. Ricky states that they too are citizens of this kingdom. The commoner's leader appears, tied to a tree. Ricky approaches and comments that he now remembers the guy's sister being in the group. The tied up student smiles and asks if that's why. He then realizes that both the brother and sister were there. He yells that their younger siblings are no longer here and were worthless compared to the 2 of them. He continues, saying the bears must have already attacked. With luck, maybe one of them is still fighting. The princess orders Ricky to go after them immediately, as there might still be a trail. Ella tries to follow him, but the princess stops her and tells her to stay. She turns to her and asks why. She yells that her younger brother is out there too. The princess says she understands what it's like to hear something like that might have happened to one's own family, but she states that the girl would only get in the way. The captured student explains that if everything happened as he said, the scene of the incident would be a bloody mess. The monsters, drawn by the scent of blood, would gather, making it impossible to know how many would be there. The princess comments that Ricky has the skill to defeat them all, but fighting while protecting her would be difficult even for him. She then asks Ella to trust him and wait there by her side. Ella tightens her grip on her sword and whispers Yurian's name. Elsewhere in the forest, Ricky runs at high speed through the trees. He finds Tian lying on the ground. He senses a presence approaching. He leaps back, dodging an attack from a helmeted figure. The stranger wonders why he isn't the guy with glasses. Ricky notices the attacker's black brooch and realizes someone else was there. Tian remains motionless on the ground. He turns to the enemy. He questions how he dares, and lunges to attack him. Ricky wonders how his attack was blocked. The helmeted man comments that a surprise attack is a bit dangerous. He asks if he thought he'd get away unscathed after attacking his younger sister. The helmeted young man questions if he's supposed to be the younger sister. He asks Ricky to calm down and listen, saying he understands the misunderstanding. Ricky just whispers the word wind. The helmeted man watches the magic take form. A gust of wind is launched at him. The young man comments that was dangerous and almost broke his helmet. He watches Ricky create a wind shield around Tian. Ricky turns and calls him a peasant. The helmeted young man thanks him. saying he doesn't believe Ricky is one of the remnants. In recognition of him dodging his attacks twice, Ricky decides to introduce himself. He reveals his name is Ricky, the eldest son of the Viscount family that serves the wind spirit Y. The other young man introduces himself as Yuri Sungung. Ricky repeats the name Yuri Sungung, and since he claimed not to be a remnant, says he'll ask a question. He asks if the young man knows who left his sister in that state. Yuri Sungung turns and asks about his sister. An image of Yurian holding an unconscious teen appears. Yuri Sungung points to himself and asks, "Me?" He admits he knocked her out, but Ricky interrupts him. He declares that this time he'll break that helmet first. Yuri Sungung comments that clearing up misunderstandings isn't easy. He says he needs to go get something soon. He dashes forward at high speed, stating they'll talk more calmly next time. Ricky observes his speed. He deduces that, from the way he moves, he's at least a mid-level knight. Even so, he manages to intercept him, saying he's already read his moves. He prepares his attack. He declares that his sword is faster. He strikes, believing he's hit his opponent. He realizes he missed the attack. He turns and notices his adversary has disappeared. He looks around, searching for him. He looks up. Yuri Sungung appears from behind and pins him to the ground. The helmeted young man asks if that was his afterimage. Soon after, it's announced that the 29th entrance exam has ended. A man reports there was an unfortunate incident, but the princess apprehended the culprits and the royal investigation team is handling the case. In a meeting room, Mages congratulates the instructors on their hard work, but one of them disagrees about the quality of the students. He claims this year was a mess because the commoners and lower class were all stirred up. Gi scolds him, saying the Royal Magic Academy doesn't take social status into account, but he shouts that's a lie and that the academy exists to fulfill a noble's duties. Another instructor asks him not to use her father's name when talking about the academy, but the argument is cut short. Mages orders the man to explain the rest to them. The man reports that 29 people have passed and the top 10 are. The candidates crowd around the results list to check their rankings. Princess Saruti is announced as first place. Ricky, in second place, finds Yuri Sungung's absence strange as he doesn't believe he could have failed. Jade celebrates third place, saying her mother will be happy. The sisters Sia and Mu, in fourth and fifth, talk about the personal evaluation criteria. Ella celebrates sixth place and wonders where Yurian is. Chris, in seventh, accuses the lower-class girl of cheating to beat him. Rizzo, the eighth-place finisher, is annoyed. He even took the test and threatens to beat someone up. In ninth place, Hina is excited about the princess's presence and dreams of being her friend. Goliath, in 10th, decides to avoid the long-haired guy because of his personality. Tina is relieved to see she passed in 24th place. She's proud of her brother's second place and then looks for Yurian's name. Yurian cracks a slight smile. Then, he starts to sweat, realizing this is bad. He discovers he failed. He asks himself if he was too relaxed during the tests since he was sure he got the item. Ella runs to him, saying she heard about the trap but is happy to see he's okay. She says she wanted to go after him right away, but Yurian reassures her and apologizes for making her worry. He congratulates her on 6th place and comments on the benefits of being in the top 10. Ella thanks him, says it was luck, and hopes she'll have the same luck next year. Yurian is confused and repeats her words. Next year, she announces she won't be enrolling and suggests they enter together next year. He reminds her that their goal was to attend the academy together. Chris appears laughing and says it's great they can fail together. He keeps laughing. Ella and Yurian stare at him. The guy with strawberry blonde hair watches them. Soon after, he starts cackling again. Yurian wonders if he should punch him. In the meeting room, Gi slams the table and yells that she can't accept these results. Mages then comments that he thinks the results were as expected, but she clarifies that she's not talking about the top 10, but the fact that candidate Yurian didn't pass. The assistant explains that although Yurian is Ella's brother and brought the item, it seems he didn't get it by himself. Garyunbi then adds that compared to his sister, his swordsmanship is weak. Gi insists, stating that candidate Yurian possesses immense talent. Chris keeps laughing at Yurian's failure. He starts dancing while shouting that he failed. The taunting continues with more dance moves. Yurian just stares at him with a smile. Suddenly, an assistant runs into the hall and announces an emergency statement. He informs them that one more candidate will be admitted, in addition to the other 29 students. The name of the accepted student in the magic specialization is Yurian. The other candidates react in shock to the special admission of a commoner. Ella congratulates him, saying they can enroll together, but Yurian still doesn't understand the situation. In the meeting room, Gia argued that she couldn't understand the rejection, stating that Yurian has immense potential. She explains that he not only had enough magical power to damage the measuring device, but he also managed to instantly contain his strength to prevent a major accident, showing meticulous control. Gi concludes by saying that letting someone like him go would be a huge loss for the kingdom. Mages counters, pointing out that he would have been defeated by the bear monster if Tian hadn't saved him, as he lacks experience. But she retorts that the school is precisely the place to gain that experience and that he could surpass the top-ranked students. Mages questions whether a commoner truly deserves to enroll in the school. Gi replies that the one who doesn't deserve to be there is him, a teacher who blatantly discriminates against a student. Mages then states that the magic school exists to train talented warriors and that status doesn't matter. He adds that he trusts Professor G, one of the few heroic mages in the country. Considering how much she praises the student, it would be foolish to waste his talent. Using his authority as the director, he accepts Yurian as a special admission student in the magic course. But he imposes one condition. If Yurian fails to produce the expected results, he will be immediately expelled. Back in the hall, Yurian murmurs the name Yuri Sungung. He places a hand on his own head, estimating the height of the one who saved him. Suddenly, he realizes who it is. He remembers the bear monster test, when the masked figure carried Tian. His eyes widen with the discovery. Tian, from a distance, watches in their direction. Yurian turns to a training dummy and knocks it down with a wooden sword strike. Tian watches him from afar, thinking that there's no way the person is just that. Ella asks what that was, but Yurian says he doesn't know. The next day, news spreads that the top 10 students and the special admission student are in the advanced class. In front of the classroom, Ella says she's nervous, and Yurian tells her to relax. When they open the door, they find a large lecture hall already filled with students. The first-ranked student, Princess Saruti, is sitting next to the second-ranked Ricky. Meanwhile, Sia, the fourth-ranked, is showing something to Mu, the fifth. Jade, the third, looks surprised, and Hina, the ninth, admires the princess from afar. Ella, the sixth-ranked, asks where they should sit, while Yurian feels like he's back in elementary school. He wonders what education is like in a world of magic, guessing it's less developed than in his past life. Suddenly, Raizo, the 8th-ranked, appears behind them and orders them to get out of the way. Ella agrees and moves aside while Yurian wonders if he's the school bully. Chris stands up and calls out to Raizo, who turns to face him. The 7th-ranked student asks if he just arrived. Raizo simply replies, "So what?" Chris scolds him, questioning how he could arrive after the commoner when he should be setting an example. Raizo repeats aggressively, "So what?" Chris bows and informs him that he is ranked 7th, while Raizo is 8th. With a smile, he tells him not to be late from now on. Raizo stares at him in silence. He asks if Chris is implying he's stronger just because of a small difference in rank. He steps closer and states that a test like that isn't enough to judge him, before asking if he's challenging him. Ella whispers that they're fighting, but Yurian invites her to sit in the empty seats. Goliath comments on the fight, and Hina just watches them. Jade watches the scene from the front row. As she sits down, Ella comments that she's never sat in such a soft chair, and Yurian agrees. Jade turns around and introduces himself. Ella also says her name, but he replies that they don't need formalities in the same class. He tells Yurian that it's incredible for a commoner to get into the advanced class, and that it's an honor to be with him. He proposes they set status aside and be friends, and Yurian accepts. He asks if he's Yurian, Ella's younger brother, and the boy confirms, clarifying that they aren't biological siblings. The information surprises Jade. He praises Ella's excellent swordsmanship, stating that she's a perfect role model and deserves to be in the advanced class. He says he's looking forward to seeing what Yurian is capable of and hopes he proves his worth. Yurian looks at him with a subtle smile. Suddenly, an argument breaks out among other students in the room. The school bell rings, marking the end of activities. As they walk through the courtyard, Ella comments that there wasn't much to do on the first day. She says the real classes will start tomorrow. She turns to Yurian and says they're finally at the magic school. She suggests they have fun until their other siblings arrive, and he agrees. From a distance, 2 upperclassmen watch them, surprised that they are actually commoners. One of them comments that the school's standards have dropped to the point of allowing commoners in the advanced class, something unthinkable in his time. Yurian notices that the 2 guys are second-year students. They approach and demand to be greeted properly. Yurian and Ella greet them respectfully. The stronger one then orders them to take off their uniforms. He claims it's unacceptable for a commoner to wear the same uniform as a noble, leaving Ella confused by the demand. The upperclassman grabs Yurian by the vest and tells him to obey. He glares at the boy with fury. Then he forcibly removes Yurian's vest, but he can barely hold it, complaining that it's too heavy. Yurian just smiles and calls him Sunbae-nim. The upperclassman looks back and realizes the boy has already moved away. Suddenly, Jade appears and declares that the school is no place for status discrimination. As Ella places the vest over Yurian's head, he comments that the situation is amusing. Jade steps forward, saying the upperclassman's actions dishonor the school. The other upperclassman scolds him for the way he's addressing a senior. Ella reacts and strikes the stronger upperclassman. He yells that she should respect her elders. Jade calls out her name. Then she starts to fall slowly. Yurian watches the scene, paralyzed. Staring at the attacker, his eyes fill with rage. Sitting in the principal's office, Haiwan, the resident hero, waits in silence. Mages thanks her for taking over the advanced class, but she retorts that she only accepted because she had nothing better to do. With her usual frankness, she comments that he should cheer up a bit. Mages points out that this year's class will be one of the most significant in the school's history. Curious, Haiwan asks what he means and if he's talking about the siblings. Confirming, Mages recalls that despite opposition from the nobles, they were admitted as special students to the advanced class. He continues, stating that he understands the sisters' admission, who instinctively infuse mana into her sword despite being a commoner. Haiwan agrees that Ella is incredible and would have had a guaranteed spot if she had been born a noble, but she points out that the same can't be said for her brother. Mages recalls Ji's insistence on the boy's great talent, who, unlike his sister, had proven nothing. Haiwan concludes that even so, he received the special title because of the significance Mages mentioned. Mages asks if she thinks the school's current system is working as it should. He explains that the place should nurture talent regardless of status, but it has become a stepping stone for nobles, dooming the kingdom to failure. Haiwan replies that she was only trained to fight, but she fully trusts his judgment. Turning around, Mage returns to the subject of the great significance he mentioned earlier. Pointing to the window, he says the siblings are being bullied outside and need to be stopped. Haiwan tells him to calm down, suggesting they just watch for now. With a keen eye, she states she's curious to understand this significance. In the courtyard, an upperclassman demands respect and lands a solid punch on Ella. Jade yells the girl's name. Ella collapses from the impact of the blow. Yurian watches the entire scene with a fixed gaze. Jade takes a combat stance and orders Yurian to take Ella to the infirmary. He vows to drag the attackers to the student affairs office. An upperclassman objects, reminding him that they are second years. The attacker suddenly notices a button in his hand. Not understanding how Yurian escaped, he realizes he didn't even loosen his grip, yet Yurian is already holding Ella in his arms. With his heart racing, Yurian replays the moment the upperclassman hit his sister. He also recalls the mana-infused fist about to strike her with full force. With Ella safe in his arms, he faces the upperclassman without hesitation. Jade grabs the attacker's wrist, who panics and tries to break free. Surprised by the strength of someone smaller, the attacker struggles to get loose, but Jade also has trouble holding him down. Gritting his teeth, the upperclassman tries to resist. He yells for Nigel to use magic. Nigel draws his wand to restore the upperclassman's dignity, but Jade tells him to wait. Getting an earful from Yurian for using magic inside the school, the boy is told to back off. Jade is stunned to see him still there as Yurian activates a skill to heal Ella. Assuring him that he's already taken care of her, he warns that he'll handle the rest. Paralyzed, Jade stands with his wand in his hand. From the window, Mages and Haiwan watch everything in silence. Ella wakes up and Yurian asks if she's okay, telling her not to push herself. Getting up, he announces he'll show them the first method he created to hide his power. Sudden confusion washes over Yurian. He sees Jade and the two upperclassmen dancing together. Addressing the principal, Haiwan breaks the silence. She questions if he made Yurian a special student already knowing about his abilities. In the courtyard, Ella asks Yurian what's happening. Jade approaches, wanting to know how Ella could be completely recovered. Yurian assures him he just healed her, and Jade repeats the word healing in disbelief. A vignette from This World's Common Sense appears. It explains that healing magic is used to treat injuries, but the process usually takes 5 to 15 minutes, depending on the user's skill. The hosts conclude by saying not to do crazy things like instant healing. Finally, Yurian understands that this world doesn't have instant healing. Jade comments that this is worthy of a special admission student, regretting his failure to impress Ella. Back in the principal's office, Haiwan grows tired and announces that's enough. She appears right in the middle of the commotion and declares that fights between students are strictly forbidden. Yurian and Ella turn around, realizing they were being watched. With a serious expression, Haiwan faces the two of them. She comments that there are many interesting students this year. She tells everyone to leave and promises to pretend she saw nothing, since it's the entrance ceremony. The upperclassman apologizes, thanks her, and still vows to get revenge on the freshmen. Later in the dorm, Yurian gets excited when he discovers he'll have a private room and a bed. He tells Ella the dorm is amazing and starts to laugh. His laughter goes on, and she calls out his name. Sounding surprised, Ella admits she didn't know he was talented enough for a complete instant heal. Not realizing it was such an incredible feat, Yurian admits he had no idea either. Ella states that with his talent, he'll be recruited to an extraordinary place after graduation, and she feels they'll end up drifting apart. Calling her name, he tries to get her attention. His firm gaze meets hers. Ella declares that she doesn't intend to lose to him. After all, she'll be by his side and is also part of the advanced class. She suggests they support each other until the end, and Yurian agrees with a nod. The next day, a teacher greets the class and introduces herself as the one in charge of the advanced class. Haiwan announces that she hopes to get along with everyone. Hina and Goliath react with surprise, realizing the resident hero will be the advanced class's teacher. Whispering, Ella says that the person from yesterday is their teacher, while Yurian asks what resident hero means. Haiwan asks if they enjoyed the private rooms, exclusive to the advanced class. She explains that ordinary students with no merit don't receive such privileges. The teacher adds that food, uniforms, and facilities are part of the benefits of being there. If they remain in the advanced class until graduation, they will live envied by others. But she warns that the school system includes demotion. Haiwan clarifies that even though they entered through the test, low grades will result in being dropped to the common class. She then reveals that the number of students who graduated from the advanced class last year was 0. Yurian breaks into a smile, stating that he's really excited about all this. With a piece of chalk in her hand, Haiwan announces the start of class. Looking at the board, Yurian is surprised by what she writes. With a nervous smile, he thinks that maybe he got off to too good of a start. In the advanced class, evaluation is absolute. This means the number of students changes every year. Unlike regular students, the members of this class receive tremendous support. They're practically guaranteed a successful career the moment they graduate. But if their grades drop, they're immediately demoted to the regular class and all their honor vanishes. Last year, not a single student managed to graduate from the honors class. It remains to be seen if Yurian, our protagonist, will be able to graduate. Walking up to the blackboard, Instructor G announces that this is their first class. Yurian reacts to what's written on the board. Chris also stares at the board, trying to confirm if that is mathematics. The instructor watches him in silence. He asks for permission to ask a question, and GI allows it. The young noble wants to know why they have to study math in a magic academy since he wants to learn magic. The instructor then turns the question back on him, asking why he wants to use magic. According to Chris, his goal is to become a powerful sorcerer and help the kingdom, but Jia states that you don't need mana to become strong. Knowledge of the world is what truly matters, according to her. Nigel remarks that knowledge allows one to surpass their innate abilities. Yurian questions this. To demonstrate, GI ignites a flame on her fingertip and asks how to make it grow. Chris answers that you just need to inject more mana. Making the fire larger, GI confirms his answer is correct. She explains that normally the fire would be strengthened with more mana, and Chris reacts with satisfaction. But GI asks what to do if you can't inject more mana and looks at the girl with her hair tied up. Ella suggests using support spells from other sorcerers, but GI rejects the idea. The flame moves towards the chandelier as GI comments that there's a better way to amplify fire without mana. With her other hand, she casts a spell. She reveals that wind is the best way. A huge fire tornado takes shape, leaving the students speechless. Ella notes that when fire meets wind, it grows exponentially. Yurian adds that it's a combustion reaction. GI faces the class and states that this is knowledge, and the reason they shouldn't focus only on increasing their mana. She announces they need to learn about knowledge and proposes starting with a simple test. Complete silence fills the room. Everyone focuses on the test, writing with their quills. The instructor stops the exam and begins to check the answers. She informs them that 3 students got everything right. Chris reacts, having guessed on 2 questions. The first one with a perfect score is Princess Saruti. Ella cheers at her result. Next, the instructor announces Rizzo as the second name, surprising Chris. Tian notices the sweat on his brow and asks a direct question. She wants to know if Chris didn't get a perfect score. She reminds him of his noble status and his good performance on the entrance exam. She points out that the rankings change monthly, but says she doesn't care much about it. She just wants him to do well starting tomorrow. Chris is left speechless by her comment. GI builds up the suspense for the last student with a perfect score. The name is revealed, Yurian. Princess Saruti, Sia, and Ricky react with surprise, and Chris is stunned to see the commoner at the top. Ella gets excited when she hears his name. A faint smile appears on Yurian's face. He reveals that in his past life, he was a high school student in South Korea who struggled with the competitive private education system. He states that he can solve these kinds of problems in his head with no effort at all. He's certain he's the best student in this academy. Sitting next to him, Goliath comments that his result is impressive. The young noble declares he won't lose to Yurian. Ending the simple tests, GE promises to give everyone a gift. She holds a small insignia in her hand. Then she throws several insignias toward the students. The advanced class emblems float to each of them, and the instructor tells them to pin them to their vests. With these, they now have access to everything within the academy, including the highest quality meals prepared exclusively for the advanced class. Approaching Ella, Yurian points and says it's meat. Tasting a piece, Ella comments that the meat melts in her mouth and declares that the advanced class is truly the best. She tells Yurian she wants to stay in the honors class forever, and he replies that they can if they perform well. Yurian asserts that they need to work hard to maintain high grades. GI asks if they enjoyed the meal and announces the start of the monster hunting class. She explains that unlike the morning's test, this class will impact their grades and, in the worst case scenario, could result in demotion. Yurian warns Ella about the class's impact on their grades, and she guarantees she'll take first place. But the instructor reminds them that they're still freshmen and too young to hunt monsters alone. GI reveals she has called in some upperclassmen for a joint hunting class. 2 upperclassmen arrive, and Nigel comments that he missed his adorable freshman. Yurian notes that their teamwork will be evaluated, suggesting they should get along. The blonde upperclassman approaches and reinforces that teamwork is crucial for the test. He threatens that if he reports any disobedience, their grades will plummet. He says they don't need to be afraid, but that upperclassmen can be angels or demons depending on their attitude. Goliath turns to Ella and Yurian, apologizes, and recommends they cooperate for now. He declares that even if it's unfair, he must stay in the advanced class at all costs. Goliath clenches his fist, determined. Ella agrees that they also need to stay, but Yurian hesitates. He questions if they'll get a good evaluation just by obeying while the upperclassmen laugh. Analyzing the two, Yurian decides he can't let them jeopardize his grade. An idea strikes him. He approaches and respectfully calls them seniors, leaving Nigel and the other one surprised. He proposes they make a bet. The older upperclassman gets angry, asking how a commoner dares to propose such a thing and what a freshman could possibly do. But Yurian assures them they will show what they're capable of right then and there. The blonde senior accepts the challenge without hesitation. He kicks a barrel full of weapons toward the freshman. Nigel orders them to grab swords and staves. With the seniors already armed, he proposes a mock battle, promising to acknowledge them if they win. Another senior warns them not to get hurt as his sword is real. He continues, saying the teachers won't know if an injury came from a monster or a human, and Yurian questions the nature of the battle. The boy asks if they really want to fight with real swords. Nigel just tells them not to be so scared. The three freshmen thank them for the opportunity, and Goliath celebrates being able to stay in the advanced class. Ella asks Yurian which sword she should choose, and he tells her to just grab anyone while the seniors watch. The swordsman senior tells Nigel not to go easy, and he agrees. Suddenly advancing, the senior attacks Ella, who blocks the blow firmly. Surprised, the senior retreats, feeling the force of her block. He realizes the commoner has infused her blade with mana. Ella recalls a past confrontation. On that occasion, she couldn't protect herself or Yurian. Her lack of composure cost her dearly, but now she won't let her guard down. Calling out to Nigel, the senior asks for a protection spell. Nigel conjures magical armor around his companion. Goliath dashes forward. He runs straight for Nigel, who is preparing a powerful spell. An intense energy manifests in Goliath's hand. Nigel's staff is ripped from his hand. Confused, he wonders what happened to his staff. Goliath now wields a shadowy sword. He states that taking out the sorcerer first is the basic rule. The swordsman senior prepares to act. He charges at Yurian, saying they'll also defeat the sorcerer on their side, but Ella guarantees that won't happen. The man continues his charge toward the boy. Yurian remains motionless, awaiting the attack. A faint smile appears on his face. The senior halts his movement, sensing a presence emerging around the boy. He watches the scene, unable to comprehend what he's witnessing. Ella senses the approaching danger. Behind Yurian, a monster emerges from the shadows. The creature attacks with its claws, and Ella screams the boy's name. She shoves him away, taking the hit in his place. Yurian sees her with her back marked by the claws. Goliath shouts Ella's name. He summons his demonic sword in a rage. The blade takes its second form, the helix, and Goliath leaps to attack. The helix strike hits the monster head-on. The creature falls heavily, slain. The senior throws himself to the ground as the monster's body plummets beside him. He realizes the creature was defeated in a single blow, but remembers the girl was injured. Yurian asks Ella if she's okay, and she replies that she feels no pain as her wounds close. The senior is stunned to see the instantaneous and complete healing. Watching the three freshmen interact, he questions if this is really the advanced class. Frustration takes hold of the senior. He then informs them that the freshmen have passed and that he won't file a negative report. Even so, he refuses to acknowledge Yurian. Nigel comments that Goliath's physique is impressive, but attributes the feat to a simple protection spell. The two seniors shout for them not to get cocky, claiming they couldn't do anything on their own. Yurian admits their argument makes sense. The class was originally supposed to take place in a cabin in the forest. Sitting in a room, Instructor G reveals that it wasn't supposed to be a joint class. An instructor mentions the activity changed suddenly, and his colleague explains that since it's G's first time, she might not know this happens sometimes. Jaya questions if they're really allowed to act like this during class. The instructor asks her to trust the excellent second-year students, saying that even teachers need a break. A simple theory class ended up turning into a monster hunt. The two instructors try to hide their embarrassment while managing the situation. Jia asks if her students won't end up hurt since the best of the second years are there. The instructor assures her they won't, and he and his colleague laugh at the situation. But the intention behind their actions was obvious. She reflects on what she should do with them for provoking her first students. She's unsure whether to praise their courage or act otherwise. A growing pressure fills the room, making the two instructors tense. Gi takes a sip of her drink and decides to wait. After all, they are advanced class students. Elsewhere, someone asks Jade if he belongs to the family that wields the demonic sword. The senior asks Goliath if he made sure the commoner siblings weren't present, and the boy confirms he only brought Jade. Jade faces the seniors who suddenly summoned him to that place. The young man praises the good work they did. The top-ranked student of the second-year advanced class, Laryl, offers to give Jade some advice. The second-year group is known as the Devil's Den because of the person ranked number 1. During last year's entrance ceremony, Laryl demanded that everyone obey him. Some nobles dared to question him, but there were 10 students in the previous year's advanced class. That lasted until he defeated the other 9 in a decisive showdown. The 3 who yielded remained in the advanced class, while the 6 who resisted were removed. Currently, only 4 students remain in the second-year advanced class, and a strict hierarchy reigns among them. Goliath wonders why everyone from the second-year advanced class is gathered there. Laryl tells Jade he'd heard stories about his family before he came. He comments on the declining demon sword lineage, stating that the boy carries a great mission in such small hands. He reminds him that if he doesn't graduate from the advanced class, his family will collapse. In a memory, Jade's father asks what a magic tool is. He shows irritation at seeing people incapable of wielding demon swords using mana swords as if they were common. He explains to his son that with the popularization of magic tools in the kingdom, their family, the guardians of the demon swords, began to decline. Sitting at the table, the father calls his son in a firm voice. In the memory, the man extends his hand toward him. He says he must graduate from the advanced class, no matter the cost, to prove that the demon sword lineage still lives. He warns that if he fails, his mother, his siblings, and he will face complete ruin. Back in the present, Laryl states he will allow Jade to graduate from the advanced class. The boy stares at him, questioning the offer. Laryl reveals that the class is being watched by people so powerful it would be impossible to measure their strength. He explains they've received a mission and that if they complete it, their graduation from the advanced class will be guaranteed. Jade is stunned to realize that to these people, graduation is an insignificant thing. Laryl confirms this and orders him to go to the commoner siblings and do as he's told. He claims that compared to graduating from the advanced class, this is much simpler. He adds that he's helping because Jade's family is facing hard times and this is his chance to be a true son. Back with the group, Ella asks if he's okay and if he ran into any trouble. Yurian mentions they were worried because he took so long and Ella asks where the upperclassmen are. Jade fears they'll tell the teachers about the teamwork failure and an energy forms in his hand. Yurian notices the change in Jade's eyes. He shouts for Ella as he sees the boy raise the dark sword behind her. A dark energy shoots from the blade and envelops the two siblings. Yurian remarks that this is too cruel of a joke. Goliath watches and warns them to be careful with Jade. He explains that a high-voltage energy is running between the swords and that it will be difficult to heal if they get hit. Yurian asks if he did all that with the demon's sword and calls him skilled. Jade apologizes and asks them to stay like that for now. He reveals the upperclassmen told him only he could monopolize the points. He states that he needs to stay in the advanced class and that commoners like them can drop out without any issues. But he promises to free them when the class is over and apologizes to Jade. Laryl appears in the forest, puzzled by Jade's actions. He finds the boy collapsed on the ground and says he ordered him to neutralize the commoner siblings. He questions if he's trying to disobey the orders of his superiors. Jade lifts his injured face. Sitting on a rock, Laryl orders him to go after the siblings and follow his orders. Jade remarks that it seems the higher-ups don't accept commoners studying magic. Laryl reveals that the mission they received is to remove the commoner students from the class. To do this, the other teachers were gathered in a single location. He states that the mission must be completed. He reminds him not to disappoint the higher-ups and says this is his chance to save his family and be a good son. Laryl stares at the boy, wounded on the ground. He says he doesn't understand his actions and reminds him that he needs to graduate from the advanced class. He asks why he would do so much for a couple of poor commoners, but Jade corrects him. He states that they are Ella and Yurian. The upperclassman retorts that it's only been a day or two since they were admitted. Not enough time to form any bonds. Jade clenches his fist on the ground and says he's not doing this out of closeness. He asserts that Ella's talent with the sword deserves to be in that class, and that although Yurian is weak and struggles with magic, he is intelligent and will become an adult capable of leading the kingdom to prosperity. His healing abilities are also remarkable, and in the future, he will be recognized and heal many of the kingdom's sick. Jade declares that they both have a future, and that they will bring a light brighter than any noble who judges solely by status. Laryl repeats the words "a brighter future," and admits that maybe he's right. He approaches Jade and states that nothing is left for his family but despair. Interfering with the orders of a high-ranking noble would be a crime that could accelerate his family's downfall even further. He mentions his younger siblings, naive and innocent, who know nothing of the world. In a memory, Sade and Hazel run to congratulate him for getting into the advanced class. Jade hugs them and confirms that the news is wonderful. His siblings ask if their father will be able to smile again from now on, and if their family will be happy again, leaving Jade speechless. He remains silent in the face of their question. Then Jade hugs them again and asks them to believe in him. He promises to graduate from the advanced class as he thinks of his siblings and his father. Back in the present, Laryl says it's not too late and extends a hand to Jade. He asks him what's so wrong with prioritizing family over the kingdom's future, and what his innocent siblings did to deserve ruin. Laryl states that no matter how much he resists, the commoner siblings will be removed today as there are no teachers to save them. He holds out his hand and demands that Jade pull himself together and complete the mission, assuring him that he doesn't hate him. He proposes that they live the life of successful nobles together. Jade refuses and pushes his hand away. He tells him to back off, stating he would never do such a thing. He declares that he will protect both his friends and his family. Laryl watches in silence. He warns that Jade will regret this, and the boy prepares to fight. Laryl and the second-year advanced class students arrive to confront Yurian and Ella. Jade stands before them, determined to protect them. He prepares to face Laryl, who admits his opponent is stronger than he expected. Jade charges forward, refusing to let them win. His defeat would put Ella and Yurian in danger. Laryl reveals a small dagger, claiming he'll strike him 10 times before defeating the siblings. Jade questions the use of such a short dagger. He then rushes forward at high speed, but his body freezes mid-motion. Seizing the opening, Laryl strikes him with precision. As Jade feels the impact, his adversary comments that he's used longswords before but prefers daggers. He likes to see his opponents up close. Jade falls to the ground and Laryl coldly informs him that 9 strikes remain. One of his companions celebrates the activation of the movement sealing skill, while another admits it's still terrifying. Nigel explains that they also struggled at first, but Laryl doesn't really fight. He just launches a one-sided assault. Laryl eyes his blade and warns that he'll attack again in 10 seconds. The countdown begins with Jade still on the ground, but he rises, wielding his demonic sword and bracing himself as the count continues. Using the sword's fourth form, he creates an energy whip and lashes out at his enemy. Laeral raises his hand at the last second to block the blow, successfully defending himself. However, Jade's body freezes again. Laeral appears behind him and strikes his back. The blow is powerful, and the attacker remarks that Jade's reactions are interesting. He then hurls him to the ground and starts another countdown. He remains standing, watching as the seconds tick by. At the last moment, Jade activates the sword's third form, creating multiple spears that shoot toward his enemy. The spears hit Laeral dead on. His companions are impressed. They remark that this year's advanced class is extraordinary for Jade to create so many spears even at a disadvantage. Jade supports himself on the ground with one hand, panting as one of the spears pierces Laeral's hand. Even after being hit, Laeral attacks him again from behind. Another countdown begins. The fight takes place near Yurian's hiding spot, where he watches in silence. He tells Ella that what they heard about the scores must be a lie. Worried, she fears the upperclassmen are threatening Jade again and wonders if he'll survive. Yurian tries to calm Ella, saying it'll be fine if it's just those two. Still, he admits he has a bad feeling. In the clearing, Jade is on his knees, exhausted. One of the upperclassmen steps on his head, but quickly retreats in fear. Laeral scolds him, telling him to leave if he's going to hesitate. They're here to win at any cost. The guy apologizes and quickly backs away. Laeral turns to Jade and asks if he's still standing. He coldly states that all attempts to stop him were useless, and now he will defeat the siblings. He says his actions were meaningless and have only doomed his family to ruin. Approaching, Laeral crouches down and questions his choices, asking why he's in this state. He presses on, demanding to know why his family must fall and why he won't stand up. He proposes they defeat the commoners together, assuring him he can still save them. Jade then reveals the movement lock lasts for 5 seconds with a 10-second cooldown. Laeral glares at him, annoyed, and asks what difference that makes. Without waiting for an answer, he strikes him again, demanding to know what difference it makes. Jade writhes on the ground as the other watches him with fury. Laeral pulls the spear fragment from his hand and asks why he keeps resisting. He reminds him that he needs to graduate from the advanced class and asks if he doesn't care about his own family's ruin. But Jade remains still, listening to his enemy question why he's trying so hard for mere commoners. With a faint smile, he asks why Laeral doesn't just submit. He repeats the question, asking why he acts this way for ordinary people. Then he pushes himself up with effort and asks if Laeral has any real friends. He states that he can't even describe how pathetic he is. Laeral's eyes fill with fury. He lunges forward, trying to strike Jade once more. The blow is delivered with force, but something stops him mid-swing. His dagger is sent flying by a sudden attack. Jade kneels, watching in surprise. He asks Yurian what he meant about monopolizing the scores. Yurian heals him completely and warns him not to show off again. Jade says his name, still stunned. The other students are shocked by the instant recovery, confirming the rumors were true. Laeral remains silent as Yurian approaches the upperclassmen. With a firm gaze, he warns them they won't be leaving unscathed, especially the sinister-looking one. He orders them to get ready. Laeral gives him a menacing smile. He picks up his fallen dagger and calls him an insolent fool. He charges, shouting that he'll crush him for getting too close, but Yurian remains motionless, awaiting the attack. He faces the enemy's advance with a confident smirk. He creates a sphere of energy in his palm. Using the second form of the demon's sword, he lands a direct hit on Laeral. Laeral notices that Jade has already recovered his energy, recognizing the instant and complete healing. He reacts to the blow he just received. Jade approaches and asks Yurian why he came. He continues, saying Yurian should have known how dangerous this place was. Yurian points out that Jade was seriously injured. Jade is confused as he thought he had healed him and asks if he missed something. Yurian reassures him, confirming his healing was perfect and that Nuna is also fine. He explains he was protecting the princess's team, and Jade questions why she's here. Jade says that's a relief. Laeral interrupts, asking what they're whispering about and complaining that he's feeling left out. Jade is surprised by Laeral's confession of loneliness, while Yurian finds the comment curious. He senses Laeral's mana overflowing with killing intent. Jade warns Yurian to get ready to run. Yurian remarks that the man is far more dangerous than he imagined, despite having just arrived. Laeral asks who said he would let them escape. Jade notices Laeral is using the ability that restricts their movements again. He wonders which of them is truly being held in place. Laeral charges forward with a dagger, and Jade questions which target he's aiming for. He reacts to his opponent's speed and summons the demon's sword. He then uses the 8th form to forge his shield and block the attack. Jade states it was predictable that Laeral would lock his movement. Laeral insults him. Yurian asks if that can even be called a sword, finding the situation convenient, while Jade realizes the paralysis was meant to force him to protect Yurian. Laeral questions if he predicted the attack since he created the shield before his body stopped. He grabs Jade and comments on his squirming and resistance. Yurian curses at his rival, calling him ugly. He warns that if Laeral ever shows his face again, he'll kill him before he even realizes he's there. Lel reacts to the threat and asks what that's supposed to mean. He wonders why he feels afraid. Yurian activates his healing ability on Jade, who asks why Lel has stopped attacking. Jade stands up and declares this is their chance to defeat the enemy. Lel loses his patience and yells at the group. He says he's had enough and gives his allies 10 minutes to defeat them all. 3 students appear behind him. They celebrate the order, saying they've been waiting for this. Jade admits he had forgotten they were there. Lel taunts that he doubts they could get away from him, let alone the entire second-year advanced class that now appears. Jade reacts to the new threat. He asks himself what he can do in this situation. He tells himself to stop the useless thoughts, as nothing will change if he just cowers. He focuses on finding a way to escape. He clenches his fist, forcing himself to think clearly. He is determined to find a solution. But Yurian interrupts, stating that he's done enough. Then Yurian touches Jade's shoulder. Jade reacts with confusion. Yurian catches him as he faints and asks if he's alright. A student scoffs, saying that in the end, Jade just fainted from fear. Yurian tells him to lead the rest to him and get some sleep. Elsewhere, a sword is stuck in the ground and someone comments that they're late. Ricky, ranked second in the advanced class, asks if they aren't going to get their teammate. Nearby, Ella confides in the princess that she also finds the situation strange. She explains that Yurian promised to be right back and wonders if something is wrong. Princess Saruti, ranked first, agrees and suggests they go look for him. A student notices that they've fled immediately. Lel then orders them to find and kill them, as no witnesses can be left alive. He complains that the guy ran off while carrying someone on his back. Lel stops as he senses an approaching presence. He addresses the helmeted figure and asks who it is. A student demands he get out of the way, reminding him they're on a mission from their superiors. Yuri Sungung remarks that it's been a while since his last workout. He takes the opportunity to stretch and hopes no one dies too easily. Lel asks one last time who he is. The helmeted figure identifies himself as Yuri, the genius swordsman. Lel orders them to attack while he's standing still, and 3 students charge forward. A smile spreads across Leryl's face. The first was Xin Kang, a symbol of strength capable of shattering rocks with his bare hands. The second was Yahello, a strange boy who took pleasure in killing. And the third was Kelly, the weakest of the group, but known for completing any mission she was given. Lel states that they are all excellent subordinates and promises the stranger before them will be taken down slowly. He asks if that's all the opponent can do. Suddenly, the bodies of his allies are thrown violently backward. Lel turns around confused. The 3 subordinates are now stuck upside down in the tree trunks. Lel observes the scene in silence. Yuri Sungung declares that the restriction ability doesn't work on him and tells Lel to stop with the petty tricks. Lel repeats the words petty tricks with contempt. Yuri scolds him, telling him to listen when someone is talking. Lel charges with a dagger, but his attack is easily blocked. Yuri states that it wouldn't work. He then asks if that's the only thing Lel knows how to do. Lel just glares at him in silence, annoyed. Lel unleashes a barrage of strikes, but Yuri defends against every attack. He then yells, asking what the problem is, and claims his opponent can't win by just blocking. Yuri remains in a defensive stance. Leryl's dagger shatters in his hand. Lel stares at the broken dagger as Yuri asks if he's the top-ranked sophomore. He then expresses his disappointment, saying he won't even get a workout if this is all Lel can do. Lel glares at him. A smile spreads across his face. He reveals it's been 4 years since he's used a longsword. Lel charges forward to attack, and Yuri says he's looking forward to it. He closes in at high speed. Yuri asks if he's trying that again. He then questions why Yuri would think his ability is limited to restricting movement. Revealing the reason he's the top ranker, Lel curves his blade and strikes Yuri's shoulder. Yuri observes the mark on his shoulder. The reason is that no one can keep up with his speed. Last year, he was responsible for the assault case during the advanced class entrance ceremony. But the board of directors at the Royal Magic Academy announced that he is vital to the kingdom's success. Lel then questions how he dares to think he can match his speed. He declares that speed is power. Yuri comments that he has a tough body as he planned to neutralize his left arm, but he only managed to leave a mark and then points to the mark itself. He then states that's not his mark. Lel looks down, confused to see a large mark on his own chest. He then realizes the situation. Lel reacts to the impact of the blow. Yuri finds the situation tedious as Lel drops to his knees. Lel then claims that the kingdom's future depends on his talent. Yuri retorts, saying that's rich coming from someone who just tried such a dangerous act. He then remains silent. A memory shows Lel dragging a young Jade through the forest. He then stands over the fallen boy, holding a dagger. Jade appears, fallen and beaten on the ground. Back in the present, Yuri calls out to him. He approaches and warns him that he won't let him get away so easily. Lel then asks who he is. Yuri raises his sword and says goodbye. Far away, Princess Saruti questions a dark energy as Ricky reacts. Ricky then says the name Yuri Sungung. He recognizes him as the main culprit in the entrance exam case and prepares a wind spell. The princess tells Ella that they need to move too. Ricky rushes through the forest at high speed. He keeps his focus on the path ahead. Arriving at the scene, he confirms that the top-ranked sophomore. Yuri stands over Leryl's fallen body. Ricky steps forward and calls out to Yuri Sungung, but the helmeted figure asks him to just call him Yuris. Ricky questions him, asking if Leryl, the best of the sophomores, wasn't good enough for him either. He then asks why Eurus isn't trying to eliminate the students, and he replies that he hasn't eliminated anyone. Ricky asks if he doesn't plan on telling the truth, but gives up and grips the hilt of his weapon. He then prepares to attack, stating he'll force him to confess. Eurus simply asks if he's stronger than Lel. Ricky warns him that he'll regret it if he thinks he's the same as before, because this time he will use the power of Y, the Great Spirit of the Wind. The helmeted figure then asks about the Great Spirit. Hershia then explains that it can become anything from a demon king to a dragon beast king. Eurus then notes that, as expected, there are other races besides humans. Ricky invokes the name of Y, the Great Spirit of the Wind, and asks it to strengthen him. Eurus thinks that's pretty cool and wonders if he should prepare an awakening skill too. Ricky focuses his power into his gaze. He then unleashes 1,000 wind swords at Eurus. Ricky finishes the motion of his attack. The barrage hits Eurus head-on. He then comments that it was quite refreshing. The attack's energy dissipates. Eurus then grips the hilt of his own sword. With a single swing, he bats away the remaining blades. He then wonders if this will work. Ricky's weapon begins to be enveloped by an energy. He sees the brief moment his opponent lowers his guard as a golden opportunity. Ricky then prepares to end the fight with a single blow, but Eurus watches the attack approach and says that it's pretty good. He then asks a question about the 2 letters his opponent is about to see. Ricky prepares to give the answer. Eurus appears behind him and strikes, revealing the answer is afterimage. He scolds him, complaining that Eurus snuck up on him again. Eurus then remarks that, even so, he's better than the rest of the second-year students. An announcement informs them that the first-year honor class's senior joint class has been cancelled. The reason was that Yurisu, the suspect in the incident with the nobles, appeared and confronted the students again. Ji then walks with determination down a hallway. Director Mages calls her by name, Haiwan. She asks if he received a report. He confirms, saying he heard about the incident while the other teachers were looking for her. Ji explains she was prevented from going to the scene, and the director comments that he didn't think she was the type to hold back. She then reveals she stayed put on purpose, as she never imagined her students would be affected. Ji believes this was done by someone with high authority, capable of directly manipulating the teachers. Director Mages agrees, stating he also believes the culprit is a high-ranking noble. She then stares at him seriously. An image of her damaged classroom flashes in her mind. Amidst the wreckage, she addresses the director. Then she says she hopes he is not involved in this incident. Mages calls her by name, Haiwan. He states that the situation is unsettling, and not just for her. Ji says she's also furious that the students were affected. He swears he isn't involved and reveals he is interrogating the teachers who detained her, as he believes they were following orders. She then asks him to investigate the second-year honor students, since they were the ones who confronted her students. The director informs her that they are recovering from the confrontation with Yurisu, and that the investigation will begin shortly. Ji then wonders if Yurisu could be a spy sent by the Empire. Mages replies that it's not confirmed yet, but they need to find out soon. He concludes that this person is a dangerous entity who might be hiding in the school, preparing their plans in secret. Yurian delights in 2 large pieces of meat. Ella exclaims the food is delicious and offers a sweet to Yurian, who is also feasting on meat. He then wonders if this will cause him to fall behind in the honor class, even if they plan another dangerous lesson. Chris questions their attitude, but Rizzo scolds him with irritation. Chris challenges him to settle it in a direct confrontation, but Rizzo replies that he will regret the challenge. Hina and Goliath comment that they were also affected by the culprit but seem fine due to their instant recovery. Sia then comments that she's envious of that. Mu reacts suddenly. Sia then asks what's wrong. Jade approaches, calling for Ella and Yurian. He says he's happy they are both safe, and Yurian asks if Jade is okay. Jade confirms he fainted suddenly, but is fine, as it happens occasionally. Ella then tells Jade that he tried to risk himself to protect them. She then asks that, from now on, he not try to do things alone so they can overcome this together. Jade asks Ella if they are precious friends, and she reacts to the question. He's happy with the idea, but Yurian comments that Nuna comes first, followed by the lunch menu, and only then Jade. Jade then wishes himself good luck. In the senior joint class that could have led to demotion, all the first-year students made it out safely. Yurian also made it out safely in the honor class. After a few months of peace, Director Mages announces that the special magic student, Yurian, will be expelled if he fails the exam. Yurian confirms this is true, placing him in danger of expulsion. Originally, when enrolling as a special magic student, there was a condition of expulsion for low grades. But the director believes he will easily pass this exam as well, and Yurian agrees. The director then clears his throat and continues the explanation. This session is the Royal Magic School's midterm exam, a monster hunting test for the honor class. Everyone will enter their respective exam forests, and passing requires collecting 20 points. Rizzo questions the 20 points, thinking it sounds complicated, while Chris scolds him for his manner of speaking. Director Mages praises student Rizzo's question. He then reveals crucial information, explaining that beast-type monsters, like wolves, bears, and tigers, are level 1. He continues, explaining that weapon-type monsters, like swords, bows, and axes, are level 2. As for natural disaster-type monsters, such as typhoons and earthquakes, they are classified classified as level 3. Then he reveals that disease-type monsters, which cause various illnesses, are level 4. And finally, he mentions that there is only one level 5 monster in the world, Time. The director then clarifies that as a monster's strength increases, so does the danger it poses to humans. Yurian finds the explanation interesting, concluding that monsters are adversaries of humanity. Raizo then interrupts him and asks again about the 20-point system. Mages again praises student Raizo's good question. He then explains that level 1 monsters are worth 2 points and level 2 monsters are worth 5 points. Goliath understands they just need to hunt and gather 20 points, questioning if any more explanation is needed. Then the director informs them that the test period is 5 days and that it is an individual competition. Yurian calculates that he'll need to hunt 4 level 2 monsters to pass without revealing his strength. Mu then asks the director how many points level 3 monsters are worth. The director comments that among the first-year students, she is the third to ask that question. He replies that level 3 monsters are worth 20 points, but warns them to retreat immediately if they encounter one. Rishal states that a level 3 monster cannot be overcome by a student, no matter what. Professor Ga Ryunbi then assures them that they will handle any level 3 monsters in this exam. Gi declares that no one will be able to interfere this time, whether it's monsters or the adversary Yurisu. As the exclusive guard of the honor class, she states she will handle it personally. Yurian finds the increased surveillance during the midterms quite interesting. The question remains whether Yurian can safely pass the midterm exam without revealing his strength. The director announces the monster hunting test, explaining that a level 1 is worth 2 points and a level 2 is worth 5 points. Yurian understands that although the test is easy, he needs a total of 20 points to pass. It turns out that many eyes are watching this test, and especially those of instructor Jie. Chris approaches and asks Yurian if he knew the test is an individual competition. He then taunts him, questioning how someone who can only heal could possibly gather 20 points alone. Ella defends him and assures him she will help in some way, but Yurian just thanks her. He then replies that he actually prefers it this way. Professor Ga Ryunbi approaches the director. He informs him that he has already sent the students to their designated locations. Mages congratulates him, while a female teacher uses a crystal sphere to observe the students. The sphere then begins to connect with the test locations. The image of Princess Saruti appears clearly on the magical device. The teacher announces that the connection is complete, and the director seems pleased. Then he picks up one of the spheres and wonders who will be the first to pass the test. One professor opines that naturally, the princess would be the first to pass, given her unusual talent for her age. But Ga Ryunbi mentions Riki, stating that student also seems exceptional. Another teacher comments that all the first-year students are excellent, but then asks about the special magic student. An instructor doubts the commoner will be the first, thinking he won't even be able to pass the test alone. The teacher worries, saying there's no way he can be expelled and that Yurian must absolutely remain at the school. Gi, however, states that she has not yet seen his instant full recovery. She then concludes that they will have to watch to know if he will pass the test or not. In the forest, Yurian asks not to be watched. He then notices a floating eye in the sky watching him. Yurian knows he'll be expelled if he can't get 20 points and needs a way to pass without revealing his powers. But he wonders what the strength limit is. He then recalls that instant full recovery is an incredible technique in this world. Yurian then questions if the strength limit only applies to attack power. A giant rat appears behind him while he is distracted. He turns around, comments that the creature has a frightening appearance. The giant monster tries to attack Yurian. He then looks at the floating eye that watches him. With his staff, he creates a large whirlpool of water. A teacher is delighted, exclaiming that's a fantastic flow of water. One of the instructors is surprised that a student is using the magical device he created in that way. Gi comments that he had excellent magical power, but she adds that his strength is insufficient, and the creature remains standing. Yurian then taunts it, saying it looks like a wet rat. He notes that, as expected, at this level, there is no pain in his heart. A memory emerges of when his heart reacted immediately. Back then, he was trying to use a power several times greater, meaning that a certain degree of power won't cause death when discovered. The giant rat then splits in two. Yurian now finds himself surrounded by 3 identical monsters. He then wonders what exactly the critical degree of power would be. A skeletal monster appears behind one of the rats. Yurian watches the creature intently. A sword-shaped monster then reveals itself. The creature advances at high speed. Then it attacks the giant rat with multiple strikes. Yurian dodges the attacks coming his way. The sword defeats the remaining monsters. The teachers watch the scene through the crystal spheres. After the smoke clears, the battlefield falls silent. Then he uses his ability to recover. A teacher celebrates the instant recovery while an instructor is surprised there's no damage. Yurian then comments that a level 2 monster like that was worth 5 points. He then wonders if Ella is collecting her points well. Jade warns Ella to be careful with the monster in front of her. The creature reveals itself to be a level 2 monster. Jade then suggests they take care of it quickly to find Yurian. Ella comments that he might be in trouble as the axe monster prepares an attack. Jade and she then watch the creature approaching. He lunges forward to intercept the monster's blow with his own skill. Then he tries to hold back the approaching attack. Jade reacts to the creature's power. Ella joins him to help block the blow. Together, they join forces to resist the attack. Jade struggles to maintain the defense, but the force of the impact hurls them backward. Jade then thanks Ella, and she says she managed to stop the attack thanks to him, her precious friend. He reacts to the comment while Ella mentions her hands are still numb. She realizes a level 2 monster is much stronger and fears Yurian could get seriously hurt. Ella then shows her determination. She declares they need to hurry, take care of the monster, and find Yurian. Jade then agrees with the plan. Ella agrees, and Jade comments that it will be difficult for that guy to gather points alone. They have just fought a level 2 monster. This made them more confident, as the enemy was strong but not unstoppable. But now, the duo looks up in surprise. A great storm begins to form in the sky. Then, a level 3 monster, a hurricane, appears before them. In the surveillance room, the teachers watch the exam's progress. One of their crystal spheres shows Yurian alone in the forest. The instructors continue to monitor the students through the magical devices. Suddenly, one of the crystal spheres begins to crack. The teacher holding it reacts, asking what it is. Director Mages is informed about areas A2, B3, and C1. An instructor is surprised to learn that a total of 3 level 3 monsters have been sighted. Mages then states that this is strange. This was the forest designated for first-year students, where only level 1 and 2 monsters were supposed to appear. Faced with this unusual occurrence, he calls for Garyunbi, Jerry, and Haewon. He then orders them to move to the locations where the level 3 monsters were spotted. Mages declares that they must protect the students, the future of the kingdom, no matter what. In the forest, the hurricane monster manifests. Ella looks up, wondering what's happening. She then wonders what exactly that level 3 monster is. They wonder where to start and how to attack that thing. Jade then yells for Ella to focus. He warns her that the teachers will arrive soon and that she shouldn't get hit until then. Ella then agrees to the plan. Her thoughts turn to Yurian and she wonders if he's okay. Suddenly, Ella's body begins to float in the air. Jade reaches out his hand, yelling for her to grab it. Their hands almost touch in midair. He grabs her and warns her not to let go, no matter what. Jade uses his ability to try and land safely on the ground. Suddenly, Jade senses the approaching danger. He shouts to dodge as the monster launches an attack. The blow hits them both, sending them flying. Lying on the grass, Jade asks Ella if she's okay, and she confirms. Jade props himself up, looking up. He realizes it's one crisis after another, with both monsters blocking their path. Jade and Ella prepare for the upcoming battle. He then focuses his energy while she readies her sword. Jade then shouts that to escape, they need to force their way through. The axe monster charges forward to attack. Jade prepares to block the blow. Using the 8th form of his dark sword, he creates a shield to defend against the attack. As expected, he successfully blocks the blow. Ella's sword is enveloped in energy. She then leaps over Jade's shield to attack the other monster. Her blade then collides with the creature. Ella reacts to the impact of the blow. Her attack only deals superficial damage to the creature. Jade then runs over and tells her he's fine, surprising Ella. He then charges towards the monster. In a memory, his mother questions if he truly intended to sacrifice himself to protect their family. Jade then replies that he's fine and has no fear if it's for them. Her expression then fills with worry. She then corrects him, saying that's not true, and she continues, stating that he doesn't need to sacrifice himself for the family. She advises him to always use his strength to protect himself, his comrades, and the citizens. Jade recalls his mother's words about their role as wielders of the magic sword. In fact, he remembers not giving his all when facing Leril. He then recalls how that was a problem he thought he had to solve through his own sacrifice. Then he remembers how Yurian pointed out how injured he was. And he also recalls Ella saying he wanted to sacrifice himself to protect them. An image of his younger siblings appears, asking him not to get hurt. Back in the present, his expression changes. He then unleashes the first form of the magic sword, creating a skull-shaped attack. Ella watches the scene and questions what that is. Ella wonders what weapon he's using, as she couldn't see anything. She then marvels at Jade's incredible skill. The hurricane monster then prepares to attack. Jade yells for Ella to watch out for what's coming. A strong gust of wind then hurls them into the air. The pair reacts to the unexpected situation. She is then surprised at how a mere gust of wind could make them fall like that. She then braces for the fall. Ella realizes that if they fall from here, they'll definitely... She then thinks of Yurian. Suddenly, their fall is stopped in midair and they float safely. Ella lands gently while Jade falls to the ground, and she asks for Yurian. Yurian then reveals himself and questions if that's a level 3 monster. Jade calls out to him, saying he's relieved he's okay. Yurian reminds him that the teachers are on their way, then turns to the monster and asks if it's worth 20 points. Yurian suggests the 3 of them try to defeat it, leaving Jade and Ella surprised. Jade questions if he's serious and how he can even think that after seeing what happened. Ella feels ashamed for being scared and recognizes that Yurian is a bigger person than her, but Yurian just excitedly repeats that it's worth 20 points.